Ann Doyle worked for the Ford Motor Company in communications, and now she's with Ann Doyle Strategies. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Michael Patrick.
Isn't it the fact of the matter that Bill Ford, as popular as he was, executive chairman of the Ford Motor Company, couldn't get the job done and really had to step aside and bring in Alan Mulally to turn things around? Isn't that the fact?
Yeah, that is the fact. The great thing, I guess, about Bill Ford is that he recognized that. I mean, it was a tough thing to do, but he did recognize it, and I would have to say it took him probably too long to recognize it. Ford Motor Company, let's not forget, drifted very dangerously close to the rocks. And really just in time did Bill Ford step aside and make a very critically important decision to bring in Alan Mulally from outside. But Bill Ford, his name is on the building. I mean, he is the head of that family in many ways now, and it was important he stepped in there in a time of crisis, and so he did the right things in terms of firing Jack Nasser. I mean, he's the one that did that, but he didn't really know, there wasn't anybody in place, to put at the head of Ford Motor Company at the time they fired Nasser. So he stepped in. And it took him a couple of years to realize that he couldn't do it, that they needed someone who was a business person of the skill level for a complicated business of an Alan Mulally. And Bill Ford has a lot of strengths, but that was not it.
What did you think about not only the endorsement of Ford of Rick Snyder, but more to the point, this situation with the Attorney General Mike Cox now and the so-called whistleblower coming forward in an affidavit, is that enough smoke for people to say, you know what, there's fire there?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that Bill Ford endorsed Rick Snyder. He has not really done a lot of political endorsements like that. But he definitely is out there in favor of Rick Snyder, and I think it was a good thing that he showed some leadership and basically made a decision, because there's a lot of confusion right now. I think this piece about Mike Cox is, I believe if it helps anybody, it probably helps Rick Snyder on this side of the state. I mean, Hoekstra obviously is very, very strong over on the west, but there's still all this indecision about what's going on, and so if it helps anybody, I think it helps Rick Snyder. I also think a lot of people have made up their minds about that. This has been out there a long time, and a certain number of people, a high percentage, are going to say, that's just dirty politics. I mean, that's old news. But I think there's a certain amount of people that will sway. This is, to me, the big story here is that people are so undecided, and I'll give you an example of, I live in the country. I live at the end of a very long driveway. I have never had a trick-or-treater come to my house in 20 years of living here. But I got political stuff at my door, people walking all the way down the driveway to my door from the Republican Party, and that to me is how hard they're working out there, and the fact that they feel there's so much indecision out there.
Well, the truth of the matter is, if the Attorney General were to win the Republican nomination, we would be looking at this specter continuing to haunt him through the general election. Isn't that fair to say?
Yes, and I think the big questions about Cox have always been his integrity. There was an issue, I believe, of an affair that also was back in there, and so this thing coming out now is just a little more of, can we trust this person? We just don't know.
All right, Ann, thank you very much for the chat this morning. We can find you at Ann Doyle Strategies, with an E on the end of her last name, Ann Doyle Strategies, and we appreciate the chat this morning. Lots of other things to talk about, including the Tigers, who got no hit yesterday. Then the start of a 4-game road trip, and it's the first time there was a no-hitter in the Tampa Bay Rays history. And at the same time, Scherzer had a no-hitter going into the 6th inning, so it was a wild game. Jim Leyland thrown out in the 3rd inning after arguing a call, and so we'll see what happens the rest of it. The Tigers are really banged up. You got Brandon Inge, Maglio Ordonez, Carlos Guillen all out, And, the question is now, do they make some kind of move before the trade deadline? And if they do, are they trying to preserve this season? Do they risk, the young talent for the future? It's intriguing, isn't it?
Oh my gosh, it's sad. I mean, that no-hitter was okay. It was a no-hitter, but when you've got that many rookies in the lineup who've just been called up to the major leagues, I mean, they didn't have a chance in that game. And, yeah, we kind of wasted a great performance by Scherzer, so that was too bad. But, yeah, it's really tough. I mean, I hate to see what looked like another promising season going right down the drain. And
I sure hope that's not the case. Verlander will be on the mound tonight. The Boys of Summer. She's Ann Doyle. I'm Michael Patrick Shields.